Hey, everybody. It is a foggy and brisk afternoon here in DFW. And on the channel today, we have my good mate, Matt Vaccaro. In addition to being a Spurs fan, he's a connoisseur of all foods. More specifically, Indian is amongst his favorites. So if you ever want to find out where to get the best Indian food in DFW, Matt's your guy. And so I have him on because his attention to detail is bar none, and he's a very cool and calm person. And we're going to be discussing the Spurs as well as results from the weekend. How you doing, Matt?
Hey, not bad, Kabui. Thanks so much for having me on. Big fan of the show, big fan of EPL. I'm ready to dig in.
All right, excellent. So we're going to start off at the top. We had a lot of soccer this weekend, football. I call it football. Everybody calls it soccer, right? Um, but we started off the weekend with Man City at Chelsea, and Man City surviving Abdir Kadir Kusanov's nightmare of a start, and he gave up an own goal. Kind of settled in after that, but they finished the game strong. Arsenal survive a Miles Lewis Skelly red card and go on to win that game. A little bit of controversy, but Michael Oliver is Michael Oliver. He's going to do what he wants. Um, Next game was Newcastle. So Mike's Newcastle team back to form after the beating they took last week, looking like they want to push for a Champions League spot. Liverpool holding court and taking a +3 goal difference back to 6 points ahead of Arsenal. And then Everton with one of the shockers of the weekend, beating Brighton at home. And then Bournemouth with the shocker of the weekend. Did you catch any of that game, Matt?
Yeah, you know what? I've been a fan of Bournemouth over the course of the season. I think they've been playing brilliant football, scoring goals for fun now with Clivert and Semenyo. Got the hat trick from Ouattara.
Mhm.
Just, man, it's a good side. Top to bottom, it's a good side. They've got the young center back partnership, Zabarni and Huijsen, who are
Mhm.
outstanding. Kirkez is going to get a big money move either this summer. Bournemouth would be real lucky if they could hang on to him for next season. But I think money is going to be too much. What I like about Kirkez, uh, tenacious. I mean,
Yeah.
the kid just does not take his foot off the gas, and he's got this really quick pace about him. I like all things Bournemouth right now. I think they are the inform side. They ripped Newcastle apart
Yeah.
the week before. Um, their run kind of started mid-December, happened against Tottenham actually, and I
Mhm.
know that we took a lot of shtick. I think we lost that match 1-0,
Yeah.
and looking back on it now, you'd say, well, gosh, there's no shame in losing to that Bournemouth side 1-0
Yep.
when now they're ripping teams apart 4-1, 5-0.
Arsenal
So
lost the game to them too, right? So
yeah,
they're no slouches.
yeah, and look, their head coach or their manager is going to be someone who is
Mhm.
going to be sought after. So Bournemouth may find themselves a victim of their own success
Yeah.
with trying to hang on to a lot of these players. But Clivert, Semenyo are going to be linked with big money moves. Poison they got from Juventus will be big link. The kid's
Yeah, he's
19
a
years
Spanish
old.
international. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
He's a
19 years
monster.
old and already starting in a Bournemouth side that's pushing for a place in Europe. So what's not to like about Bournemouth right now?
I guess
Um,
that team is well coached, and just the proof that if you have a good system and a good coach and players who work for each other, you don't have to have a big name to make it happen, even with all the injuries they're carrying as well, right? That's another big.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the Tottenham injuries, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to we'll provide context for it, but yeah,
Sure.
it's hard to point to injuries as an excuse for anything when you see a side like Bournemouth go through an injury spell, and
Yeah.
then you see where they are now, and it's not like they have funds available to go and spend money big in January to come in and fill holes at Bournemouth. They just keep on keeping on. What a success story so far.
Yeah. Great recruitment too. And so today, the Villa and West Ham kicked off. I didn't get to watch it, but from what I read, it was kind of like a dour affair. Not much going on there.
You know,
And then,
real
did you
real
catch it?
tenacious match actually. Both sides were playing to win, and
Okay.
it was a very open game. I think 1-1 was a fair result. Um, West Ham with the new manager appointment
Mm,
uh, always seems to give teams a lift, right? The players are going to fight a little harder to keep their place in the team,
yeah.
rally around the new manager, not disappoint the fan base. So it's always tough. Anytime you're playing a side that has a new manager. Spurs a couple weeks ago against Everton, right, with David
Mhm.
Moyes returning to the side. Yeah, on paper, Everton should have been an easy match, but the
Yeah.
players, again, they're committed to the new manager. They want to keep their place in the team. So it's not just as cut and dry as saying, okay, well, Spurs are better than Everton or this team is better than Everton. There's something to be said about work rate and effort, and oftentimes those mid-season managerial changes can make that happen.
New coach bounce is a good thing most of the time. So
Most of the time, yeah,
yeah.
it doesn't always go to plan. The guy at United,
Amarim.
Amarin,
Yeah.
he has not hit the ground running, but I think it's well documented all the troubles that United have had, from club infrastructure to their stadium falling apart to bad investment in the transfer market. I mean, they gave Ten Hag what, $750 million to put players in that side, and they don't have an identity. They don't really
Yeah.
have a standout player that, other than like Amad Diallo, who I think Ten Hag was perfectly fine just going to let him rot on the bench, and then all of a sudden Amarin plugs him in, and they're like, "Oh wait, we have a
We have
player
a
here."
superstar
So
here.
yeah, we have a player here. So be
Yeah.
very interesting how United shape up through the course of this year, and whether or not they have the monies to invest in a January transfer or two to kind of help steer the
Mhm.
side into the top half of the table.
Okay. Brentford Palace, didn't catch that. I was at church this morning, so I only caught parts of your game in between. So let's go ahead and discuss what happened today. I'm going to put up one of the pages here with has some of the details of the game and scores and all that good stuff. Kind of be like our guideline for what happened. So let's start with the lineup. How did you feel when they released the lineup before kickoff? Were you feeling confident?
Well, I mean, so we're really short of bodies. You look at the bench. There were two senior players on the bench in Basuma, who didn't even come on,
Hmm.
and Sergio Reguilon, who, if the manager had his way, would have been loaned out to another club to even start the year.
Uh-huh.
So in no way, shape, or form was Reguilon part of the plan, and yet here we are, 3 weeks into January, and you have two senior players on your bench. The rest of them are teenagers. And so, you know, um, getting into kind of contextualizing some of the issues at Spurs, you go into the season having offloaded, I think, 13 first team players, or players that would have been in the 25-man Premier League squad the season
Yeah.
before. So you ship out a number of players,
Yeah.
which, bravo, kudos to the club for shifting those players out. And then you say, okay, well, there's also been investment, right? You bring in Solanke for a pretty penny, and he's come
Yeah.
in and he's been as good as advertised, one of our players of the season so far.
Yeah. I agree.
But then you look at, okay, well, did they do anything else in the summer to improve the starting 11? And the answer is no. They brought in a number of teenagers,
Yeah.
Archie Gray and Louis Bergvall. Yang, who we haven't yet seen, he's the young South Korean player of the year from the K League, who is the country believes that he's the heir apparent to Son Heung-min, and he just happens to now play his club football at Tottenham, with being the understudy to
To
Son.
some.
So there's an awful lot to be excited about in terms of the young talent that Tottenham have amassed. Vuskovic is a center back playing his club football right now at Westerlo. And as a center back, a 17-year-old center back in that league, I think has already scored 6 goals from set pieces and open play.
Hmm.
And so they're super excited about him, but these are not players that you can rely on to say, okay, well, we want to fight for a Champions League place, which then helps the recruitment of players in the various transfer windows, right? So if you don't have European football to offer, and I think you can call a spade, and
Hmm.
Tottenham are nowhere near um, sniffing any kind of European football unless a miracle happens and we happen to win the Europa League. But on current form, you wouldn't put any kind of money on Tottenham to do that.
I wouldn't. And so I mean the recruitment points to like building for the future, right? But there's that shortfall before the future. You have to sustain where you are right now to have like good players want to come play for you, versus like trying to get castaways because you're a mid-table or lower than mid-table side. So you look at people who were like sidelined as well. Regulon. Jed Spence didn't get a look in until there was like absolutely no one left, and then Ange was like, "Okay, I'll give you a shot," and he looked halfway decent. But I think you're missing maybe 3 to 4 mature players, Premier League proven, who could affect the game. Someone like at the back, like a Connor Cody, who's on the bench for Leicester. I don't know if he's in good shape, but I don't think he'd be any worse than what Ben Davies did today. So, you know,
Yeah, so Ben Davies is a good loyal club servant. He's versatile, and you can line him up in different places. And he's getting up there in age. I think he's 31 years old. I would never say anything bad about Ben
sure.
Davies just because he's been a loyal club servant and more times than not puts in a shift for the team. And if we're fully fit, then Ben Davies,
Mm,
frankly, would have a tough time making the match day squad, even finding a
true,
place on the bench. Now he found himself in the starting lineup today because no Van de Ven, no Christian Romero. Um,
Do you think he should
and
have kept Archie Gray with Dragusin because they seem to have been forming like a somewhat decent center back partnership, and then you go break that up and push him out to the left center back role, right
yeah,
wing.
so Archie started today's match at left back,
Yeah.
and that was just a numbers game with how many bodies do you have available
Hmm.
to do that. So yeah, I didn't have a problem with bringing Davies in because one, he's experienced, he's
Yeah.
well thought of in the clubhouse, well liked, one of the more popular players on the team, and if he were perhaps younger and better, he's probably captain material, right? Like that's the type of professional that you're getting in Davies. Now,
Yeah.
um, he's also coming back from injury, so he
Match fit per se.
isn't in form, right? So he's going to have to play his way back into shape. And I don't even know that our back four was the problem today. I think you look at the trouble that we put ourselves under. It's playing out from the back, and we are
Mhm.
trying to hit our wingers out on the touch lines with their
Yeah.
back to goal. And Kulusevski's strong enough to shield off a defender, pick his head up, and find a willing runner to kind of maintain possession and get us into midfield and into the
Mhm.
attacking third. Son Heung-min absolutely positively cannot do that. It is awful to watch Son with his back to goal try and get the ball at his feet, hold off a defender, and find a
Yeah.
willing runner. More times than not, the Sun will turn that ball over, and now it's off to the races. And
Mhm.
it's not even a counterattack that we're giving the opposition from our attacking third. We're giving them counter attack opportunities before we even get to the halfway line. And
Yeah.
now it's 4v3, it's 5v4, and it's just
So that you talk
it's
about Ange
awful.
and his strategy and his how he's setting the team up, and it's one thing to alternate how you play and say, okay, maybe I need to go route one a bit more when you have like wingers like Son and like Porro who's willing to like bomb up and down the field. Do you think, and you've told me that you're 100% Ange, you're for Ange. You want him to be given at least till the end of the season. I don't know if he makes it tonight, just given your current form.
Yeah.
But do you think that do you think it's the players who've given up on him? Do you think it's him just not adjusting to their strengths and looking to play them in a different role whatsoever? What do you think is going wrong? Because first half you dominated from what I saw in the highlights. You had 5 legitimate opportunities to score outside of Richarlison's goal, which was a fantastic. He took that fantastically, but you hit the post. You had maybe 4 other really good chances. It just seems like maybe the ball's not falling, and that's what's hurting you right now. Whereas if you're up like 3 goals, maybe you give up 1 or 2, you still survive. What do you think the issue is here?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? So you look at our goal differential and we're plus 9 on the
Yeah,
season, and you look at the teams around us in the bottom half of the table and you say, okay, well, surely Tottenham are the outlier there
yeah.
because the other teams are negative goal differential and yet we're plus 9. So how does that happen and how do we find ourselves here? So um, I do start to question if Ange is out of his depth, not showing a
Mhm.
willingness to um, have a more defensive approach. We're
Mhm.
too open, and when we turn the ball over, we're giving teams blatant counterattack opportunities, and they're not even picking the ball up in their defensive third. They're already in our attacking third when the counterattack is happening. That is a problem, and you look
Yeah,
at
the
our
second goal.
midfielders, and they're
Yeah,
not there.
the
They're
second
not
goal
there. They're too
happened
high
just
up
like
the
that.
pitch.
Yeah, the second goal was exactly that. Porro goes into this wild tackle, like he throws himself in. He doesn't get the ball, and then by the time Papsar is trying to, like, he was full sprint, so he realized the moment that ball was picked up by Mavididi or whoever it was, he realized we're in trouble. So he all out sprinted, and then I think the issue with that goal was like, for me as a defender, if somebody has a free run, you can't keep on standing off. At some point, somebody has to step up. So nobody stepped up to challenge him. And Kinski's not a tall goalkeeper, right? So he doesn't
No,
have.
he's got good size as a 21-year-old, but he's, new country, new
Yeah.
league, and so he's going to have his growing pains. But he's not undersized, I don't
He's
think.
like he's not like a Courtois who's like an absolute monster who could have maybe the only guy who could have gotten down to that ball who's big and tall and fast enough is maybe like a Courtois, maybe a Donnarumma. Donnaruma's not even that fast, right?
Emmy Martinez, maybe.
Emmy Martinez. So, like, Kinski's not to blame for that goal. There's absolutely nothing he could have done. Ben Davies was just caught in no man's land. But that's because, like, if you looked at the gap, Ben Davies and then the gap up to the midfield, everybody was up on the midfield line
Yeah,
when he took the shot. So that's
yeah,
that's set up for me. That's how they're carrying the ball and how they're playing their position. So
yeah. But it's careless giveaway. So the first goal was a Pedro Porro error where he doesn't put enough on the ball.
mhm.
Now it becomes a 50-50 ball. We're last to it, and now they're off down our left,
Flank.
down their left flank,
Yeah.
and one simple cross into the box, and Jamie
That was that
Vardy, who
was
by the way is
that was a
Tottenham
fantastic
kryptonite.
cross. Cordova Reed put that ball
Yeah,
on the money, and Vardy didn't even think he was going to get it. Like he thought the goalie
yeah,
had it, right? I think a slight
yeah,
deflection, and he tripped over. He literally tripped over, and then it just lucky enough it was in front of him. So
yeah. No, Vardy has been a thorn in Tottenham's side. I mean, he's been a thorn in a number of teams' side, but in particular, he loves to show up against Tottenham, and
yeah,
yeah, that was so he gets the equalizer, and then now Leicester's encouraged, and they're on the front foot, and it wasn't until 15 minutes left in the game that we showed an attacking interest and actually
tried to
were
push for that
threatening,
equalizer.
but
Yeah,
even with the dominant possession in the second half for let's call it the last 15 minutes of the match, at no point in time did we really look threatening. So, we're definitely short of bodies. And I think now if you are going to stick with Ange, the
mhm.
mantra and marching orders from management has to be we need to bring in players to improve the starting 11,
Hmm.
no longer, looking for the next teenage sensation. And I get the what they're trying to do from a team building standpoint, and
Yeah.
it's real hard to recruit these teenagers at a big club like Tottenham, because you say, well, if I'm signing for Tottenham, do I have a path to
The
the
first.
first team? Right? And so that's kind of been how they've gotten Archie Gray and Bergvall in front of. I mean, half of the league wanted Archie Gray, and
Yeah.
we had to go toe
They're
to
top
toe with
prospects.
Barcelona to get Bergvall. So how did we win those transfer deals? Well, it was because we had a
Promised game
path
time.
to playing time.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've got those kids through the door, now is the time to say, okay, we've got our future taken care of.
Yeah.
Mikey Moore and Yang and Gray and Bergvall and Vuskovic. There's so much to dispense. There's so much to get excited about with the young kids. Now is the time to go and make sure that you have investment in the first 11.
Yeah.
There's a rumor out there that there's a midfielder from Lille in France, Angel Gomez, who I believe is an England international with 4 caps, 24-year-old that can play as a 6 or play as an 8.
Hmm.
So he would be a welcome addition to the team, especially if he can come in and take, Sarr's place or Madison's place if he's an upgrade there. And then you say, okay, if our midfield is Bentancur, Gomez, and Kulusevski,
Yeah.
then I like that midfield trio. But now you need a right winger, because Brennan Johnson, I think, is a nice sub off the bench, but I don't know if he's a starting right winger for a team that has European aspirations. And Son Heung-min, love him to pieces, probably my favorite player of all time
Yeah.
for Spurs. But I think some of the magic is worn off, and all those minutes in the South Korean team and all those minutes for Tottenham, and we're playing a style of football that just does not suit Son.
Yeah.
He would be better off in a counterattacking side. He had his best seasons under Conte, under Mourinho, where it was
Yeah.
sit back, defend,
And
and
then
let's hit you on
vicious
the break.
counterattacks.
And he's
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant on the
Yeah.
break, or at least was when he was a little bit younger. Now I think he's 31, 32 years old, and the
It's
magic's just
also
kind of left him.
confidence. I think the confidence has left the side. So you're doubting yourself every time you go into a game. And I think you could see the shoulders just drop after the first goal. It's like, you went
Here
into
we
the
go
half.
again.
Yeah. You went into the half confident. Okay, we're home. We've got a goal. It's going to be different. And then 1 minute into the half, you let that goal, and it's like, oh Lord, it's
Yeah.
happening again. So you know, the question is, do you give Ange till I was thinking maybe you give him till the Liverpool game since he won that first one, because I feel like he's at least earned the right to play in that cup game. I don't know if it's dangerous in the fact that you really can't afford a long run of bad results. There's 15 games left in the season,
Yeah.
and if you look at the table, it doesn't look good, right? If you look at the table right now, you're only 6 points.
Yeah.
You're 6 points off the drop. And if you look at your schedule coming up, you've got some tough games coming up. And I don't know. Do you feel like you guys have enough gas to survive the season?
Well, so the good news is that we've got players coming back from injury. So Romero came back to training this past week. He wasn't quite fit enough to even make the bench today. Van de Ven is supposed to come back to training on Monday. So you figure they're a couple weeks away. And I think the plan is to bring Romero and Van de Ven back for that Liverpool match. We've got other senior players out. Madison missed today.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was illness or if he had picked up an injury or not,
Yeah.
but Madison missed out. Brendan Johnson missed out. Um, it's hard to keep track of, Solanke out,
Yeah.
Udogi out.
Spence.
So
Was Spence a suspension?
Spence, I think, picked up a knock and just wasn't quite ready, so he didn't make the bench today as well. So, no, I think at this stage of the season, all these other teams that have fired their managers have found suitable replacements, right? David
Yeah.
Moyes, Graham Potter. So if you're Spurs and you fire Ange, you look around. Well, who are you going to replace him with at this stage of the season that's going to come in and do a better job? There's not
Yeah.
that many unemployed managers that are
Which is
available. And
a good point.
now that
Yeah.
these other clubs have had their pick of the litter from the managers who were available, now we're getting what, third choice, fourth choice, fifth choice. No, I think you stick with Ange. You hopefully going into the last week of the transfer window, you can
Mhm.
bring in one or two players to improve the starting 11. That's got it. That's the thing for me. You've invested in the youth and the
Yeah.
future looks bright. But now is the time to invest and make sure that you are improving the starting 11. So the combination of a couple new faces, the combination of getting some players back from injury,
Yeah.
and look, Ange, it looks like we're going to make the knockout stages of the Europa League. We're in the carrying a one-goal lead against Liverpool going into the second leg of the semifinals in the Carabao. We're
Yeah.
still in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot to play for.
there's a lot to play for. So
Yeah.
I say give Ange through the rest of the season, and
Yeah.
the one time you would hit the panic button is if we do really and truly find ourselves in a relegation battle, then maybe pull the plug and perhaps give Ryan Mason the interim manager position.
Call Big Sean
Um,
Dyche. Call Big Sean Dyche.
yeah, yeah, but
Or Sam Allardyce.
Dyche would be a rental, right? You wouldn't sign him to a 2-year contract, a
That's what
3-year
he's good for,
contract.
and he's okay with it. Just pay him the money.
Yeah, but I don't know that this team is built to defend and counterattack, right?
Yeah.
Because going back to comments earlier in this deal, we
Yeah.
offloaded 13 players from last season to this season, so they are trying to build the team uh, into the style of play that Ange wants.
Yeah.
But you've got to help him out. You've got to help him out, and he needs a couple new faces. And so here we are, last week of January. I
Yeah.
think the window closes on Friday. You need two players minimum to come in and give us healthy bodies, improve the starting 11, get the players back from injury, and see what Ange can do. And if we continue to fall on our flat on our face, then yeah, you pull the plug on Ange and he's out the door. But he has it all to do. This is squarely on Ange if the team shows support and
Yeah.
gets some in the some help in the transfer window.
Well, couple more days for the transfer window. You're hoping for some players. I'm hoping for some players. We'll see what happens. There's still some cups to win. There's plenty to lose. But I'd love to say I wish you'd stay up, but I really don't.
Yeah. So I think you and I both know that there's no chance Spurs will be relegated,
I
right?
no, there's
No,
too
no
much of a gap.
chance.
Seven points is too much of a gap to make up. You've got a good side. It's just sometimes you just hit a really bad run, and I actually think you guys will probably finish the season pretty strong and push up towards the middle of the pack by the end of the season. Europa, cup games. If you get a healthy squad, anything can happen, and then you might have a cup this season, and Arsenal don't, and you're laughing at me. Yeah. Nobody cares about coming second, so
Yeah,
don't
no,
care about coming second.
I promise that under no circumstance will I be laughing at you.
That's what you
This
say
season
now.
is this season has been real trying, as a
Humbling.
supporter and humbling. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it'd be real easy to just sit there and point to the injuries as the excuse. It goes deeper than that, and you understand. We went into the season with a very thin squad, and you're playing two domestic cups,
Yep.
your domestic league and Europa League. That's an awful lot of matches. I
Yeah.
think we've already played, I think, 36 matches across those competitions this year. And last year in total, I think we played a total of 41 matches. So here we are in January. We've almost equaled the number of matches that we've played this season compared to last season. Um,
It's a lot of
yeah,
work.
we need healthy bodies.
All
We
right.
need healthy bodies.
Well, I appreciate the chat. You've been a top guest on the show. I'd love to do it again. And plenty of football to play for. I'll be seeing you around. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe, and we'll be back. Cheers. Have a
Yeah,
great week.
you got it. Thanks.